Hey guys, welcome back. We are working on the Wacky Gator. We got the heater going. It's getting hot. Woo! Today we're going to put the coin door on. While we were gone, I added some yellow T-molding. I finished painting the cabinet. We got the black and blue done. And that's been pretty much it. Also, I do have the, I got the yellow and the blue. We got this thing cleaned up. Probably do one more pass on that for the play field. The reason I chose yellow was that's if you take a look at the original Wacky Gator right here, you notice the one in Japan has a lot of yellow and green and stuff. So I'm trying to kind of hone in on that. But as far as that goes, let's get started fixing the Wacky Gator. Alright, I got the locks on the coin door ready to go, and got the lock on the ticket door as well. So let's go ahead and throw this thing back in the game, get it wired back up. One thing I'm going to do before I do that is actually deoxit the volume knob in the back here. In the back there's a big volume pot right there. We're going to spray some deoxit in there and get some corrosion off of that, because it's nice and accessible right now. I don't know if I'll have to take it apart or not. There might be a hole. Sometimes there's a hole for deoxit. So let's go ahead and get this thing back in the game and move on to the next step. Alright, there you go. We got the coin door back on. Finally. Getting a little old at this. And then I'm going to hit this with some spray paint. This speaker grill here. It's kind of crap. Probably should be sanded and painted actually. And I'll hit it with some paint. So I'm going to hit that with some paint, and then I'm going to go ahead and start taking out the problem tracks and start working on those. So let's get through that. And all right, to remove the tracks, it's just a matter of a couple bolts, one here and one over there, I believe. And you will probably have to release the mechanism and move this over to get to the other one. And then after you get that out there, it's just a connector. So we're going to go ahead and take this one out, clean it up a little bit. It's very dirty. The other ones will probably just clean as they are. And then we're going to add a little bit of grease in there. Just add a little bit of grease inside the wheel tracks. But with these, we're going to fix the locking coil by swapping off the other parts. So let's go ahead and get this thing out, and we'll come back. All right, we got our track on the bench here. My bench is clustered. If you notice on the end here, they just cut the wires off for this coil. So we're gonna have to make sure that we wire that correctly. And other than that, there's a token in there. It's pretty grimy. I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna clean this thing up, and then we're gonna worry about this coil assembly. We'll pull whatever parts we need to off of the other one. So I'm not too worried. I'm going to start by cleaning this thing up a little bit so I don't have to touch it so much. All right, let's get that started. I just wanted to show you guys, I've been cleaning these teeth off on the bottom here that drive the thing back and forth, and there's just so much gunk in there. I've actually been using a little screwdriver, and I've been kind of getting the gunk out this way because it's just so much hair in here. I don't know. what is going on, but it's so caked on there that I found it easier to just go through each individual spoke and just kind of get all the dried up lithium grease off, and want these teeth to be nice and fresh before we grease them again. So that's what I've been doing here, and it's just, man, it's horrible. Way worse than I thought they were. We may have to pull all of them out now. I mean, they work, but this can't be good for the motor to have this thing so clogged. All right, so I'll keep going in that. We'll come back. All right, I went ahead and taken off the other coil assembly, and I kind of grabbed the one with the same colored wires, make it easier on myself. Someone put this weird gunk on here. I don't know what this is, like a hot glue or something. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm assuming this is making good connection. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and take off the existing one by removing these two screws right here. Maybe. Should just come right off. There we go. Just gonna keep that together in case we need it. And then essentially replacing it. A little bit of rubbish there with the replacement part. It's kind of light. I'm gonna use one of these other screws. There we go. Maybe. There we go. I think there's some adjustment to this. Maybe not. What do I know? Let's kind of tighten it down for now. Nice and snug. Don't need to strip out the screws over this. Let's see if this locks. Engage our coil. It clears. That's cool. All right, so the next thing we got to do is basically connect these two wires right here. You see there's a purple stripe to the solid purple, and I left myself enough extra wire when I cut the other one off, so I have enough to make a good connection here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and solder those two wires together. You've seen that before. I'm just going to cut to the next part. Okay, we got our wires soldered on right there. Our heat shrink tubing applied. I also took the liberty to take these connectors apart and deoxit them. I'm going to deoxit every connector I see. This thing is old as dirt. One last thing I'm going to do is clean these optics. These are two optos right here. They're basically a light emitter and a light receiver, infrared, if you want to be specific. And what happens is when this thing goes back to home, it breaks this one and that one. But when it goes all the way forward, it only breaks this one. So that's how it knows if it's all the way back or if it's only partially back when it's in motion, forward, partially back, forward, partially back, all the way back. As you can see, that's why this piece is longer than this piece. If I can get it to go again. So when it engages, it comes up like this. When you first hear it go, it'll engage, it'll go forward, ouch, and then back, forward, ouch, and then back. This way it has variable degrees of like knowing where it is. So what we're going to do is clean these. And it's very easy. Basically you take yourself some alcohol, rubbing alcohol. I prefer 99% or 98%, not this 91 stuff, but that's all I have right now. We're just going to use a Q-tip. We're going to wipe these off nice and neat and gentle. Get in there on both of them. Like so. I'm going to take the dry end and we'll wipe it out. This eliminates any kind of, some simple problem that could afflict us when we put this back together. And there's a lot of dirt in there, and there's a lot of crud in this thing that falls in this thing. So we want to make sure, you know, that that is good. Another common failure point is actually the solder pads and the solder wiring. Not so much on this, more on the Gators. I believe that all these Optos are interchangeable between the Gators and the lower portion, the drive unit. A lot of times these wires will break, the solder will come off. So if you're having a problem with this, this is basically where I would start looking first, and you know, then finally check the Opto itself. Obviously, one of the solutions years ago was to put hot glue, which is what's still on here today. And we're going to leave that alone because it's still working, I hope. And it looks like they've got one of the wires soldered up here as well. Other than that, these are very simple boards. There's like one capacitor, one resistor, and the Opto. So there's not much that can go wrong. Excuse me. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a little bit of basically wheel grease inside of here. And I'm going to throw some lithium grease on the lower portion for the teeth and gears. So I actually, they are metal gears, or aluminum at least. It might be aluminum. But they're not plastic, which is awesome. So once I get this thing all squared away, we're going to throw it back in the game, and basically I'm going to repeat this process 5 times. So, well, 4 more times. So let's go ahead. I'm going to grease those up, and then we'll go to working on the Gators. All right, I got it back together. I'm just going to test power it up. We're having issues with the power supply, I believe. It's kind of getting flaky. Right now it's going. So everything seems good, except for the fact that this coil is not engaging. That's probably why the bolt was removed. If we give it a go, you'll see. Here on the bottom. All of them won't click up except for this one. And now it's gonna freak out. So all the other ones are up. That one's a little sticky too. So now we're back to wait for a game. So what we're going to do is we're going to test the voltage here and see if I can get some readings off of this. It's either this coil is not being driven by the computer, or there's a problem with this coil. I didn't actually swap it, I just kind of fixed it. Kind of regretting doing that. Maybe I should have swapped the whole thing. Worst case, I'll try doing that. Let's get the multimeter out and we'll test voltage. Okay, we got a multimeter out, and what I'm using is basically this ground plane, the big ground plane on the sensor here, the Opto sensor. I'm taking my ground to that. I'm taking the other lead on DC volts to the one end of the coil, solid purple line, and you see I get 28 volts, so that's good, and that's concurrent with all these here. So we know that our voltages are good. So this coil has voltage. That's good. The next thing we need to do is check and see if our return line is any good. For that, I'm going to power the game off so I don't have to listen to that. And I'm just going to do a few simple continuity checks. If I can find the damn wire. Maybe that's why it's not working. Alright, there's our wire. Okay, the wire we're looking for the return is a purple white wire. We're going to go to a continuity check with our meter. We got our beep. And we're just going to go to the other end of this. For some reason it turns into an orange white. I'm going to kind of just see if we can get some readings here. So that's good. Okay. So this is basically want I have a feeling that the problem is on the board. I don't know how these are all driven. So that harness goes into this. And la-di-da, we go through here. Orange white. Okay, so I'm assuming it's, oh God, this thing changes color so many times. It's solid orange, white stripe, then it goes to solid white, orange stripe. Let's see if we still have a good, okay, so it goes through this connector here and up into the back. So what we need to do is get our alligator clips and see if we can probe all the way to the logic. So let me get that set up and we'll come back. Okay, one thing I did do is I did check the ohms on that coil and they seem different than the rest of them. So I think I'm actually going to swap that with the other assembly because it's just, I want to try that first because that seems the easiest thing. It very well could be a problem with the logic, but I don't like the ohms being different than the other ones. That could cause a problem, or it did cause a problem, and now it's all shot. But so I'm going to go ahead and swap that coil and locking assembly out on this unit right here, and then we'll come back and we'll see if I was right. Probably not. See you in a minute. It'll take me like half an hour, but it'll be a minute for you. See you in a minute. All right, I swapped out that coil right there with the spare one I had, and lo and behold, I think we got it working. Let's credit it up.
I'm gonna get you.
See, all of them came up. Going through the motions. So apparently that coil was shorted, which may have been causing some of my power issues with the game as well, I'm thinking. It's still kind of noisy, a few of them. I still have to oil a couple yet, but other than that, I'm pretty much done under here. Kind of a interesting little thing, if you don't say. And, come on.
You missed me.
You missed me. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the undercarriage here. I think we're going to basically just, I'm going to oil up a few more of these, clean them out a little bit better, and I'm going to go ahead and put the playfield back on, and we'll start on the Gators. So we'll do that when we come back. All right, I'm going to get started on the first Gator here. Gotta make some room over here, Jesus. Gator number 1, and as you can see, here's his mouth. On the bottom we have some rollers. This one is outfitted with all the new rollers, which is nice. And then on the top we have a roller that's made of the original rollers, which is rubber that's disintegrated. That's going to have to come off. And if you notice on the back, we have the harness, and then we'll have one of those optos that we've had in the bottom of the other game, of the lower portion of the game. And literally what happens is when you hit the front of it, this lever pushes down and breaks that opto, and that counts as a registered hit. But this one already I can tell has problems because his jaw is moving sideways and twisty, which means that the pin in here is probably missing, loose, or not there. I have another gator here. I can show you a little bit better of how it looks once we get this off. You'll notice here there's a roller. This one has its springs busted, or it's just stuck. There we go. When you hit this down, a couple sets of rollers, and a lot of times these springs inside here are hosed, which is almost the case with this one. So we're gonna have to basically go through and pull some of those springs out of other games. We're gonna actually use these rollers. These are basically skate bearings. They should work just fine. I do have the proper rollers for the bottom. Looks like on this one they use skate bearings. But in our new parts bin, we have the proper rollers. Oops, sorry. The proper rollers for the bottom. So if we encounter more rubber ones, which we're going to, we'll take those off. So, but I think we can harvest these. Yeah, that should be okay for this one. And probably this pin assembly here. There's a cotter pin right here. You pull it out, the whole assembly comes apart. It's actually not too hard. So I'm going to go ahead and take apart gator number 1 here, and let's see what we find. Normally, there would be screws in the side of each of these. Those are completely missing. Apparently, there is a 1 screw, I guess. Huh. I don't know. Is that all there is? That's so bad. Yeah, there's only 1. I guess you only need 1. Now when you take this off, you gotta be careful because the wiring harness is attached to the plastic body. So it's something to look out for as well. Oh, okay. So our pin is intact, but it appears that our plastic jaw is broken or is missing components, one or the other. Joy. You notice on the back of this Opto is the solder pads. A lot of times if you're having problems with this game, this wiring harness is definitely your problem. It's either it came off the pads or actually the wires themselves have gone bad. How's our springs looking? Okay. The springs aren't such a problem if you're not using a mallet, but if you're using a mallet, these springs break a lot. But we're going to have to remove this cotter pin, and I'm going to have to find a pliers. Let's find the pliers. Alright. Basically, we're just going to pull this cotter pin straight out. This looks a new cotter pin, actually. And we're going to give it up. It's going to be a stubborn one, ain't it? Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I may want to just take this off right away. This is going to be stubborn. Wow, this thing is totally hosed. I wonder if it may be beneficial just to... Somebody weld that on there? Alright, we're going to try pounding it. Let's try pounding it a little. Yeah, it's just a little. There we go. It's coming out now. The screwdriver too. We're gonna put some of our parts. All right, I should be able to pull this right out then. Maybe. What's holding me up here? Yeah, something is not right about this. Something is not quite right at all. We should come right out after that. There we go. Got a couple couple spacers. Those should be in there. I'm assuming the bushing's just disintegrated. Look at that. Totally disintegrated. Okay. So we're gonna salvage him like that. Our donor part isn't much better either. Do we have any of these that are not completely shot? Seems to be a problem on all of them. Maybe something we're gonna have to live with. I wonder if we could improvise some sort of replacement. That's what we're gonna have to do. Yes, it's been a while since I worked on these. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this done by our deadline now. I did not foresee this. Let me take a look around here and see what I come up with, and we'll come. All right, so I took a look at the manual, and the part we're missing is number 16, and it's referred to as a cushion, part number 285016. And it turns out that Hab Controls has these. They're like $15 each. So I'm debating on order those. We'll see if we can find them. So that's what we're doing right now. So you can still get these parts apparently, which is cool. So there you go. Well guys, I ordered those parts, and I think that's where we're going to stop the video today, because I'm going to have to wait for them to get here. And when they get here, we'll continue to work on those gators and see if we can get them all salvaged up there. So this will be the video for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon or TeePublic.